This is ContactTalkRadio.com, Consciousness in Action, and you are taking action into your consciousness by tuning into Contact Talk Radio.
And on TuneIn.com, Hing.fm, and UpSnap Mobile.
Contact Talk Radio. Welcome to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. Joan and Janet are subtle energy empaths who navigate consciousness. Their passion is to support you in your evolution. As consciousness, we are all one. One mind, one heart, free of all limitations. Experience this reality with us and discover how it can make a difference in your daily living. Join us in a state of grace as we explore, with warmth and humor, this thing we call life. Now, here are Joan Newcomb and Janet Barrett.
Welcome to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. We're your co-hosts, Joan Newcomb, coming to you from Tacoma, Washington, and my partner, Janet Barrett's, coming to you from Portland, Oregon.
Hello, everyone. How nice to be with you today.
We have a very exciting show today. We are talking with Dr. Mmatheo Motsisi, and she is a healer, mystic, ordained minister, and author of Odyssey of A Healer. After extensive training in integrative healthcare, spirituality, physiotherapy, Chinese medicine, and acupuncture, her passion for natural ways of healing propelled her to study theology and alternative complementary medicine with Holos University in Missouri. She has traveled extensively, participating in healing practices and rituals of indigenous people throughout the world, in Nepal, in India, and China, and Africa, including the Native Americans in the USA. Dr. Motsisi is based on her her book is based on her spiritual journey and the experiences of other healers, and has interacted with many of them in her travels. This is an intensive study that spanned a period of 10 years. She runs a holistic practice located in Johannesburg, and she's developed a sympathetic understanding of the needs and problems of those entrusted under her care. And her website is www.mmatheomotsisi.com. I'm going to spell that for you. It's www.mmatheomotsisi.com.
Wow.
Yes, I know. And so before we bring her on, we've just got some announcements to let you know about, and also an invitation to go deeper with us and connect with us beyond the show. Do you want to say a little bit about that, Janet?
Sure. That'll be at our website at www.consciousconversationswithjoanandjanet.com. And there you're going to find out all the podcasts that we've been recording for our show over the last few years. You'll find our blogs. Joan writes wonderfully on Fridays. I write on Mondays each week, where we explore life and what we're noticing about in our groups and with people. And you're going to also find out about our meetups, and Joan will give you all those meetups to talk about, and our sessions. We do sessions, each of us, personal, over Skype, phone, and Joan loves to do her groups and webinars there. So we're on Facebook, Twitter, and Joan's going to give you all those details.
Yes, so we both have meetups. Janet has hers in Portland on Tuesday evenings and on Thursday afternoons in the comfort of her very lovely home. And then I do my meetups around the Puget Sound, and the one that I have coming up right now is in Kent, and it's actually the Emerald Spiral Expo. I have a booth there from 9 to 5 on this coming Saturday, September 24th. And I am also going to be talking about manifesting beyond the law of attraction, and that talk is at 2 o'clock this Saturday. It's in Kent. We're on Facebook. The show is on Facebook, Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet, so you can join the group and join the fun. If you want to follow Janet's escapades on Facebook, it is Janet Barrett. And if you want to follow my various things that I talk about, it's Joan Newcomb on Facebook. The show is also on Twitter at Joan and Janet. I'm on Twitter at Joan Newcomb. And then Janet is also on Twitter at Janet Beyond. The show is also on YouTube. So if you're liking YouTube, you can listen to the show. You can binge listen to the show on YouTube, Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. I'm on YouTube as well. And my channel, you can actually access that on our website. And our website, again, is consciousconversationswithjoanandjanet.com. Hey, do you want to tell them about our monthly conference call and what's transforming there?
Got it. Tomorrow, Thursday, 7 p.m., we usually do our free conference call. And this time we're going to do our Zoom conference call. And the new number and everything will be available at our Conscious with Joan and Janet at gmail.com address. And you can call directly in to that. And we're going to see how it works, because this gives us the opportunity, if you have the Zoom and can put that software on, to see each other, which might be good, might be not. You know, a lot of us are in our pajamas at that time, so we'll see how it works. But please join us, because we'll take that hour. We'll talk about certainly what we're going to talk about with Dr. Motsisi today, and also what we're just noticing in life, because a lot of us have relatives and family and friends in areas that have been hurricane hit, tornado hit, all kinds of hits going on. So how we're all tracking that. So please consider joining us. We'll appreciate that.
Right. We have a note about that on our website about joining us. You have to sign up for our newsletter or on our email list, so that we can send you out the contact information. And Zoom is really like Skype, except that you can phone in. If you don't want to do it in front of your computer, you can phone in. Or if you Zoom in, you do get to have a visual with us. So it's a visual group as well. And then it will be recorded for you. So we'll have both an MP3 that you can listen to it again, but there'll also be, I think it's an MP4 that you can actually watch it again too, if you like. So go to our website, consciousconversationswithjoanandjanet.com, sign up there and get the access information to our monthly conference call. And as Janet said, they are a lot of fun. They are an opportunity to be up close and personal with us in a way that is kind of hard when you're on the radio with, how many hundreds of thousands of people are listening, or you can't make it live or any of those things. This is a way to be able to access that information and that energy up close and personal, and also directly ask us questions.
Yeah, and this time it'll include visuals if you want them. So
right,
get
and
to notice me looking off into
makeup.
Space.
Have to put on makeup.
Right. So you got a new opening, you said, for your class. So what's that?
Oh, I didn't say that this time. So real quick.
Don't think so.
We have, I have a new opening in my 12 Weeks to Transformation. It is my private coaching group, and my private coaching now is a combination of coaching and training in consciousness technologies. So the results are that you can completely transform your life. You are held for 12 weeks with me in transforming your life. You get a powerful space to do that, as well as powerful, subtle but very potent techniques for how to navigate your life in this new way in the world. So if you're interested about that, there's more information on my website, which is joan-newcomb.com. I'm really wanting to bring on our guest right now.
Oh, I know. She's been waiting so patiently, or maybe not patiently. Okay. Bring her on board, Joan. Let's get this going here.
Well, welcome to the show, Dr. Motsisi. Remind us again how you pronounce your name.
It's Mmatheo, and it means foundation. Mmatheo.
Mmatheo, that's your first name.
So much. That is your first name.
Mmatheo, and it means foundation.
Oh,
yes. Welcome,
right.
welcome.
Oh, we've been looking forward to this. I think we originally linked in March, and you said you were starting your book, and that to please get a hold of you when you were done with your book. And now it looks like you're studying your publicity tour for your book. So give us the name of your book, and then let's see what shows up today for us all.
Okay. The title of the book is Odyssey of a Healer. It took me almost 10 years working on the book, but basically I could say it took me my entire life, awakening to who I am, and finally realizing that it needs to be documented because of the importance of bringing the message across to the world at large.
Oh, how wonderful. Now you're in Johannesburg?
Yes, I'm based in Johannesburg.
All right. Well, what we on this show so focus on is the awareness that energy ripples out and that there are morphic fields of energy, and that we're putting together and creating and unfolding into our show's identity all this wonderful foundation work from indigenous people and cultures, and embracing this wonderful global energy that is very, very present in all the uproar that seems to be dancing around, and that how this will empower all of us, adding to the strength so that whoever's listening, whenever they're listening, that this show can help serve as a center point for holding heart, because we use heart-centered awareness. So in that, usually each week we take time to access that place for us, and then we hold our conversation there. Are you ready to do that? Or do we want to do that after our break, Joan? Which one do you want to do this?
Why don't we go to break early so that we have more time to do this all together?
Yeah.
And so hold that thought, Mmatheo, and we will go for a quick break right now. So to remind folks that we're listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. I'm your host, Joan, along here with Janet. We're talking to Dr. Mmatheo Motsisi, Odyssey of a Healer, and we'll be right back with her in just a second.
Is your soul calling you to do something more meaningful with your life? Do you feel crazy for wanting to quit your secure job? Perhaps you are waiting until you retire to do what you love. Maybe you are too daunted to follow your dream. If any of these match your life, then Joan Newcomb's Purpose and Passion Coaching Program is just for you. In just 12 weeks, you will discover who you essentially are and why you are here. Learn to live as your greater self and navigate with conscious mastery. Go to joan-newcomb.com. That's joan-newcomb.com for all of her coaching programs. Would you like a fresh approach to the challenges you are dealing with? Take a journey into your enlightenment with Janet Barrett. Janet is a subtle energies empath, accessing the field of potential with warmth, humor, and support. She will help you to hear what your inner voice is saying. She will share with you how to appreciate who you are now and offer you new ways to understand and transform your issues. Reach her at www.janetandbeyond.com. That's janetandbeyond.com. Again, janetandbeyond.com. Transformation is possible. You can enjoy new outcomes in your current experiences. They can happen in the blink of an eye.
You are listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. To reach our program, please send questions and comments to consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. That's consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. Now, back to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet.
Welcome back. You're listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. I'm your host, Joan, along here with Janet, and we're talking to Dr. Mmatheo Motsisi, and she has written a book, Odyssey of a Healer, and she was just about to say something before we went to break, so I wanted to give her space to do that. Go ahead. What were you saying, Dr. Motsisi?
Thank you very much for the extended invitation to actually share this sacred space with you and the world at large. We're living in an interesting era, and there's a lot that is happening around us, and it's important that those who are awakened we hold hands and we lift others, so that as we shift, there's a collective shifting towards returning to source as awakened beings.
You can feel that, everyone. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. Okay. The book, for me, even when I read it, I wrote the book, but when I read it, I pause, and sometimes I cry, because as much as it speaks to the world at large, it speaks to my soul, my inner being. When I was writing the book, I wrote the book under guidance, and I connected deeply with the ancient ones, the elders, those in spirit, those who are the progenitors of life, and those who are guiding us, those who are contributing to this path. And it happened that sometimes when I was reading it the following day after writing, early hours of the morning, and then when I read the message, and I realized that that was actually a divine inspiration. It doesn't really come from me, the person. It comes from a higher source. So it's a book that when you read it, you have to go in with an open mind and not be judgmental, and be willing to receive, and be willing to go on a journey, and be willing to remember your true essence, to remember who you are, where we come from, and where we're going as beings of light, those who embody love, who came on earth to lift up and to manifest truth and love and light in this era of transformation that's ushering us into the golden era.
Whoa, okay, everybody, you can feel that. So let's take our own moment of awareness and join her where we call what we call heart-centered awareness, because she's already there. She lives that, and we all hope to be in that same place. So for those of you that are new or just listening in, we just want to notice your inward. Just go inward a little bit. Notice your heart, that physical place, and that it's beating, and be grateful and appreciative. It is a sign of life. And then just bring your awareness to your emotional terrain. And you have emotions, and they're up and down and all over the place. And just be appreciative that you can feel, because that is the gift of the human body. And then we're going to just extend that out, or go more inward. See, direction doesn't really matter. It depends upon where you're holding your placement. In your center sense, into the center of all, the core, the essence of all, which is what heart-centered awareness is. And this is where you slip past the physicalness of being and the emotional content of being into the state of where we're all one. It's the field of unified consciousness in our terms, and Doctor will have a different word perhaps. But just notice that sacredness, the clarity, the stillness of being, and being more than just a body, but just holding that expansive awareness of life and all its myriad and particles. So this is where it's the infinite sea of potential, where there's energy, but there's where it starts is out of all, and that's potential. So in our terms, we look at it as the place where we are all one, as she's talking about, and just notice. Oh, that's nice. That's nice. How you doing, Joan?
I am just noticing, and I was actually tuning into Mmatheo and what she was sharing. And Mmatheo, what I was relating to that is that I perceive that greater consciousness is coming into the world today, and how your book is so important as part of that waking up process. And I was also thinking about how important the information the collective information of the indigenous people, because we had somebody on like a couple years ago who had worked with the Aborigines in Australia, and they exist outside of time and space, but they are in that space of consciousness that is becoming more prevalent in the world today. And so there is so much wisdom that we can draw from indigenous people about how to expand to this new awareness of consciousness. So I really value your information, and I'm quite eager to hear more about it.
Okay. It's quite interesting because I've actually traveled, and from early childhood, I've always lived in two worlds. For me, there's no physical and there's no spiritual. There's no veil that separates the two worlds. I live in two worlds. I travel freely between two worlds. I commune with them. I commune more with spirits, and I get to access information even before it manifests in the physical world. I hear what others don't hear, because it's not that I have to hear through my ears or see with my eyes. I'm more connected with the spirit beings than the physical. I'm more at home in my own world, in my own paradise with the spiritual beings than the physical ones here. And with indigenous people, it's normal. It's not something that you learn. It's
a state of awareness. Yeah, you're just born into it, right?
Yes, yes. You've just said you're born into it, to an extent that when I realized I've chosen to take form and live in this body, for me it was very traumatic, because the body felt alien to me, because now I had to function within a limited space and function in this body, in this realm. And where I come from, I'm eternal, I'm limitless, I'm boundless, I'm free. There's no ego. What a wonderful world the other world is compared to this one. And I battled from early childhood. I battled to stay in this body. Many times I've actually chose to exit, and then I'll be told it's not yet time. I have to fulfill my mandate. And for me to still be in this body is because I'm in contact with the other realm, and I'm more in tune and more in harmony and more at peace and at ease and nurtured and loved and cared for by the other world that actually sustains me into this one, which I consider to be hostile.
Well, I would think a lot of our listeners could relate to that very easily. Yeah. And it's how we come to terms. Yeah.
Yes, and with I've traveled, and you find in Western world they'll be talking about the New Age, where they'll do a few courses on shamanism, modern shamanism, and all that. And sometimes I look and I feel, wow, something so sacred. How could you just go for a short course of 3 weeks or even a week, and then you consider yourself that, you are a shaman. Yeah. You can travel to the underworld. You can connect. You can zone in, zone out, and access the portal gates. And sometimes I feel it's when you don't understand and you go into that dimension, you tap into a powerful energy that if you don't understand the dynamics of how to utilize that energy, it can be very destructive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I always feel that the indigenous people, they have contributed a lot in the awakening and also in bringing the message across. And if anybody consider themselves to be a shaman or a diviner or a sangoma, whatever names, or a mystic with a short course, I don't know what that means. Because I feel it's maybe we should say it's an introduction into the bigger picture of what the spirit world is all about.
Well, I think one thing you're describing is resonance, and that what we would consider here old and what we might consider new are they're relative. And when you're coming out of your culture's awareness that says this is all the old stuff, right? And it's not old. It is what is. It is what's treasured. It's where you hold your state of awareness. For those outside looking at that, they're going to hold it in some kind of state of, they have to give it a word. Oh, that's old stuff. Well, but that's all of us. That's what we come out of. And we have, whether it's Native American that have walked here longer than European man, whether it's African who has walked longer than European man, or Chinese, or wherever the traditions are, we're indigenous. And, that's really can be used, a term that can be used well or poorly, because it can be very judgmental. What you're talking about is what is. And whether we choose to relate to it or not is up to the individual. And how we choose to access it is up to the individual. And what I'm feeling so present is how present you feel to me. And I think Joan probably catches that also. That phone call where you're in Johannesburg and we're on the West Coast here of the United States feels like it's like you're next door. You're not even next door. You're sitting next to me. There's such an immediacy and a presence that's happens here that's just very delightful.
It's because we energy beings.
Yeah.
We're not this body.
Yeah.
We are energy, and energy travels, and energy it's boundless, it's limitless. Okay. So when we connect, we're not limited by space, whether you are on the other side or I'm on this side. That's irrelevant, because we've connected at a higher level. Our energy beings have actually connected, and we're relating on that higher level. No wonder it feels that we are on the same space, because we are really in the same space.
Really.
And I want to chime in on that. So you were talking about people going and taking like a weekend course to become a shaman, and I totally understand how weird that seems, because I'm a lifelong mystic, but I went through 5 years of training and worked for 14 years, and I've been doing this for 37 years now. I think I've forgotten. I was 22 when I started. I'm 58 now. And what I have noticed is that for me, it's an evolutionary process. Yes. And the unseen world is more real to me than the seen world. And so as consciousness, like we're all connected as consciousness now, and on that level of consciousness, there's this instant knowing and this instant wisdom. But in our physical bodies that have been raised in cultures and belief systems, that is where all the conflict exists. And if you haven't had an evolutionary process to go beyond that, then you're going to interpret the wisdom that you've gotten through all those slides, in a sense, those through those filters, right? That's a better word for it. My work has gone through huge changes in recent years, where oftentimes the opposite of that original training is true. But the thing I have noticed in it, and this is where Janet and I connect, is that it is when we're connected in consciousness, it is a wonderful, benevolent feeling. And so for me, that's my touchstone, is when I am operating as consciousness, it feels, benevolent is the word, there's more words to describe it, but it feels joyous, it feels amused, it feels lighthearted, and it feels improvisational, but it's that benevolence. And so whenever I hear something that is trying to put a negative into it, or like, those people aren't as enlightened as we are because, you don't have the same religion, or and any of that black and white, good or bad, or anybody is less than, then I know that's the filter of the world, and that's not, as I would call it, consciousness. That's not that greater wisdom. And I feel that's where you're coming from, is you're from that pool of wisdom. And Janet certainly relates too, because Janet, the unseen world's more real to her as well.
I think what I'm noticing, Mmatheo, is in this conversation is it's where, okay, so you have life, and life is vitality. I mean, it's sparks, it's action, it's dynamic. And we spend a lot of our time when we come into this form about conflict. It feels like conflict. It feels, in my awareness, and as you so well articulated your experience, that I have come now to a place where it doesn't have to be conflicted, because I can see how being at essence consciousness in this human form, and where that is seamless, where it is those two realities at the same time, does not have to create conflict. It can create life. It creates vibrancy. It creates a place for me to not have to fight myself anymore and to try and explain myself, because the outside gives me all these values and judgments, and I'm constantly dancing between all that. And sometimes I am those judgments, and then I realize, oh, that's not me, right? And it's only in that interaction as life that we get to explore all of this. I mean, I think it's, it's certainly dogged my ass and been very challenging at times. And also, hallelujah. I am the most incredible person right now, right? I mean, we each are. And whatever that shows up as, and I just hold more awareness that I'm the most incredible person that I am. So, sorry, I feel the need to throw that in there. So.
The important thing when we come or we enter into this physical plane, as apparently we suffer some form of amnesia, we forget who we are.
Yes.
And having suffered that amnesia, I think that's what hit me hard. And I felt like I was in limbo. I had forgotten who I am. Mm-hmm. And I had to go through the process of remembering. Mm-hmm. And the process of remembering was a lengthy one, to remember my true essence. And in the process of remembering who I am, I had to go through the education system, which also brainwashed me more. Mm-hmm. And I had to go through all these other created avenues that here on earth that actually were not feeding my spirit, were actually making me to be more of a zombie. So it was a bit of a challenge, because my soul knew, but there was also part of me which was going through some form of programming, through education, through religion, through other avenues. And also, because I wanted to be accepted and loved and appreciated, I had to sort of like camouflage my true essence so that I could be accepted by those around. And for a long time, I camouflaged to be loved, to be accepted by the mainstream people, whom sometimes I say they are sleepwalkers, because I was also one of the sleepwalkers, until I realized it's not really helping me, because I'm here for a divine purpose to fulfill a sacred mandate.
So you're remembering. You remember?
Yes, but it was a journey. It was a hard one.
Yeah.
It was a journey full of trauma. Sure, hard.
Well, how what I relate to that is what I see is the most potent healers in the world, and I sense you are one of them, is that you come out of an experience of opposition, and that makes you a bridge for others into this new awareness that I call consciousness. They can relate because they're in that world of opposition, that world of pain, that world of invalidation, because the world out there does not want you to know that you are spirit, you are consciousness, however you want to describe it. So I hear in your story, it's you here you are, this infinite being, and you get born into just think about it, South Africa at the time you were born. I mean, what is the most oppressive experience one could have? And then your path to freedom seemed to be through education, but as you just said, it was more, it wasn't a waking up, it was like a going more into sleep. But all of those
Janet,
were...
may I come in? Just to bring a picture. Okay, I was born late 1968, fine. And then when I started school, 1976, the uprising started. So my school years were disrupted until I went to varsity. You know, it was the uprising, the toy-toying, all this struggle. So at the end of the day, I felt, it's like I was forced to be a warrior, physical and spiritual. I was thrown in that arena where I have to fight for being who I am as an African, and at a spiritual level, I had to fight to be accepted that I'm an infinite being, planted on earth for a divine purpose, and transiting earth on a brief transition on earth, but also here to awaken and here to birth change and here to contribute and here to be liberated physically and spiritually. So it's been a transition and a heavy one and a traumatic one. But I'm healed now. I've given birth to self. I've connected with self. I've embraced who I am. I understand my higher purpose, and I'm glad I'm here to birth change and to contribute to awakening the rest of humanity.
Sounds like you're pretty incredible too.
Yes.
Yeah, right. Oh, it's interesting how we serve others, right? In being who we are, we serve others. In being in our truth, we serve others. And it's not for all of us to have the same exact experience. And it's not for me, certainly, to judge how I have that experience or how someone else has their experience, and even where they are in being, right? But we do also at the same time have this appreciation for where we all are at different places. And that seems to be what shows up here in this physical plane, because if it was going to be something else, it would be something else. And so it's also about taking the pressure off myself to be the doorbell ringer or the light being, or however you want to frame how we identify ourselves. It's about being, and it's whatever form that takes. And that form may shift and change, and how I hold my awareness of that form is going to give and change. And there's also in that wonderful dance that we do, where it's this 1 minute and it's this the next, and all of it is about life, and it's either embodied or disembodied, and it's here, there, nowhere, everywhere. And as consciousness, how that has empowered me to be at peace with how I show up in my physicality and get beyond what someone says I am, because I think a lot of life is about getting beyond what someone says you are, and how that becomes our own mantra, and then how that is not our mantra. That is just what we learned. And in going back and remembering who we are. So, yeah, definitely.
And we can only give to the world that which we are made of. Mm-hmm. And how are you going to give to the world that which you are made of if you don't even remember what are you made of? No wonder no wonder, having suffered amnesia, we go through a process of remembering. And I'm glad it's a gentle, it's not a fast process. It's you don't go through that in a fast lane, because really we can have casualties.
Yes.
It's a slow process, but finally, gradually, one remembers that, you are a being of light, an embodiment of love, an incarnation of truth. And then along the way, you doubt what the Spirit has revealed, because, it's easy to forget and sometimes to even doubt that really is that so. But then something happens which challenges you, and it makes you realize that, you are a being of light and an embodiment of love, an incarnation of truth. And you can only give that. First, you have to give it to yourself, to embrace it, to awaken to it. And then you can give it to the world. But if you don't have it in you, what are you going to give to the world that which you are not made of?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And, and that really is outside of time and space, because Joan is really great she held awareness that she was a light being from a very early age, and her life has come from that awareness and how she's interacted with others, and I'll not to speak for her, but in my experience of her. And then sometimes that awakening takes a long time when we mark it in a physical sense. And sometimes it might happen at the end of the life, and it might never happen in the life, and then there's where you hold it, and then you have to fight for it. And how circumstances allow you to doubt yourself and allow you to play with that. And if you just take it out of the persecution complex, which is very challenging because that's a state of awareness, a state of persecution. When we free ourselves from that, and we can just allow ourselves to be free to be the remembered state, to be the awakened state, to just be, that's where you go, right? And aside from what the body may be forming as and what it's allowing itself to hold true to, that's all part of it, right? You have to look at the totality of something. And I have a feeling that we are all in our circumstances because that's right where we're supposed to be. And whether it's the hurricane coming and you're in the path of it, or you're in the joy of dancing in puddles, I mean, it's just one or the other, one side of the same thing. It's about life, and it's about how you choose to go on your path.
I've always been told in spirit that the circumstances that we experience in our lives, we've actually, it's like we write our own book before we come into this plane. And we tend to forget that we actually wrote those chapters, and each page we contributed. So when those circumstances starts happening, we label them because it's in the nature of human beings to label things. Mm-hmm. We seem not to be content with not attaching labels to things. So we label, this is good, this is bad. But none of those are good or bad. In contributing to helping us remember or to be resurrected from this amnesia, we have to go through those circumstances. And some of them, I remember I was told while I was going through a difficult period, and the words kept coming, and the words that kept coming to me were said, in order to access the light, you have to go through the darkness.
Yes. And
when you are a being of light, what will be the purpose of you being placed where there is already light? There won't be any difference, because your impact as a being of light won't even be felt, because already there's light. When you embody love and you are placed where already love is flourishing, everything is of love. What impact? There's no impact. So in order to heal, to touch, you'll be planted where that divine gift, that which you embody, is required so that it can birth change.
Yes. And one of the things that's required to birth change here on the program is a commercial break. So I'm going to jump in with an awareness of time and space here and let folks know that you're listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. I'm your host, Joan. I'm along here with Janet, and we are talking with Dr. Mmatheo Motsisi, and she's the author of Odyssey of A Healer, and we will be talking with her when we come right back from these messages.
Is your soul calling you to do something more meaningful with your life? Do you feel crazy for wanting to quit your secure job? Perhaps you are waiting until you retire to do what you love. Maybe you are too daunted to follow your dream. If any of these match your life, then Joan Newcomb's Purpose and Passion Coaching Program is just for you. In just 12 weeks, you will discover who you essentially are and why you are here. Learn to live as your greater self and navigate with conscious mastery. Go to joan-newcomb.com. That's joan-newcomb.com for all of her coaching programs. Would you like a fresh approach to the challenges you are dealing with? Take a journey into your enlightenment with Janet Barrett. Janet is a subtle energies empath accessing the field of potential with warmth, humor, and support. She will help you to hear what your inner voice is saying. She will share with you how to appreciate who you are now and offer you new ways to understand and transform your issues. Reach her at www.janetandbeyond.com. That's janetandbeyond.com. Again, janetandbeyond.com. Transformation is possible. You can enjoy new outcomes in your current experiences. They can happen in the blink of an eye.
You are listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. To reach our program, please send questions and comments to consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. That's consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. Now, back to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet.
Welcome back. You're listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. I'm your host, Joan, along here with Janet, and we are talking with Dr. Mmatheo Motsisi, and she wrote Odyssey of A Healer. She's been giving us some wonderful words of wisdom here, and I wanted to ask her specifically about her book, and where is the book available on Amazon? Do you prefer people to go to your website for it? How do they obtain your book?
The book is available in two versions: Kindle, the digital publication with Amazon, and the paperback with Amazon. And for international and locally for people in South Africa, it's available with exclusive books. Also with My African Buy and bargain books. But for most people, it's with Amazon.com.
So they can go and search on Amazon for Odyssey of a Healer, and your last name is Motsisi. So that's the way people can find it on Amazon. And
Yes.
And then the other thing is I wanted to direct people to your website and to let them know a little bit more about you. And if you have any offerings on your website or any special events that you want to let them know about, what would you like to tell them?
Okay, probably, I don't know whether you want me to talk a little bit about what I do. Okay, I'm a mystic, I'm a healer, I'm a diviner. Yes. Here back home, they call us Sangoma. Basically, it means a diviner, but it's not something real. I could say I had to go to school to awaken to who I am. In the elders here, they always say you are born into your seat. You come here on earth and you sit, you occupy your seat. So I believe when I incarnated into this physical plane, I was born into my seat and I'm occupying my seat and I'm serving in my seat as a diviner, as a mystic. The other things that I'm doing, I think they're just adding on who I am. So I do I practice physiotherapy. I'm a doctor in Chinese medicine and acupuncture. I'm an ordained minister, and I do colon hydrotherapy, and also I love to guide and to run seminars and to give talks and to help others who are awakening to themselves.
Is what you're doing there, Mmatheo, common? And I don't mean that you're common, but is there an acceptance of life this way? And is this a format that is used often?
That's quite an interesting question. It actually makes me to pause. Being a healer, I can't say it's a common thing. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yes,
because
right.
I've just said to you, being a mystic, a diviner, a sangoma, whatever, it's not like a common thing.
Mm-hmm. Right.
There are those who are self-made. You can choose to be self-made. And there are those who are born into their city. They've been ordained. Mm-hmm. They come into this world already with that mantle of knowing that this is the seat that they have to occupy and serve into that seat. I fall under that category. I'm not self-made. And then I function in the other things. Then maybe that makes me a commoner then. When you talk about physio and Chinese medicine, yes, that makes me a commoner in that way. But I don't look at things that way because I don't see myself as bits and pieces of self. I see myself as a holistic being.
Yes.
I don't function in isolation. I don't divide myself. I see myself as a holistic being, and I wear many shoes for the purpose of completing my sacred contract here on earth.
Got it.
Yeah. So actually, Dr. Motsisi, what I hear, Mmatheo, what I hear, this is Joan, and is that you had said in the beginning that you walk in both worlds. And so you have one side of you that is more easily understood by the world at large, like being a Chinese medicine doctor and acupuncturist and things that are somewhat recognizable. And then there's the part of you from the unseen world that is recognized by those who recognize the unseen, and that you are occupying your seat there as well. So I think when Janet was asking, she was trying to kind of ask, like, how alternative are you for your
community?
For your community, because there are places in the United States where Chinese medicine and acupuncture is kind of weird, kind of thing. Not in the corner of the United States that she and I occupy. But so I want to let folks know as we've got about 6 or 7 minutes left here. I want to let people know that your website again is MmatheoMotsisi.com. That's Mmatheo Motsisi. I'm so sorry I'm butchering your name here, but hopefully people have picked up on your energy, and also if they're on our website, they will see the description there to be able to click on your website. And you have also a very fascinating blog on there. About once a month or so, you've written about very interesting things as well. So there's many ways for people to be able to contact you after the show. Do you have any events or anything besides your book, or maybe you're doing book signings? Anything else for people to connect to you about?
I'll be going to Cape Town for the book promotion. So the book has actually kept me a little bit busy. And between my practice and my other world and the other world that I live in, which is also keeping me quite busy. And that's what I love the most than actually functioning here. And just to elaborate on how my practice, okay, let me give you a scenario. When a patient comes to the office, they come to see Dr. Motsisi. That's fine. But it's when I consult with a patient, my spiritual nature is always there. I might actually, if there's a need for me to actually bring it to the person that I'm picking certain things at a spiritual level, but also I need permission, I will. But sometimes I actually don't even disclose. I carry on with my duties unless there is a real need to actually bring it to the person and make them aware because it's of primary importance. But when I function, I function. But I never treat a person or consult with a person only at a physical. I might not disclose it to the patient, but I always able to mind read and tune in and pick up the energy and feel what's happening around at a higher level beyond the physical person who's sitting in front of me as a patient.
Got it. Is there any last few words? Because we're losing our time here. What would you like people to know? We're living in a period where there's a lot of things that are happening. And we are of nature, and everything in us testify that we are of nature. And if we can return to I don't want to say the olden ways of actually honoring nature, but if we can acknowledge that we are the sea, the rivers, the plant kingdom lives in us, the rivers lives in us, everything of nature reside in us. When we start honoring that in us, then we'll be able to honor Mother Nature. You heard it here, everybody. Thank you so very much, Dr. Motsisi. Oh, you have added so much, and I'm sure we're going to enjoy this ripple and ripple and ripple. What you got there, Joan? What do we need to let people know before we go?
Yes, I want to thank Dr. Motsisi as well, and thank you so much for what you shared with us and for enlightening our listeners as well. I want to quickly remind folks to connect with us and go deeper beyond the show. It's Conscious Conversations with JoanandJanet.com. There you can listen to our podcasts. You can also read our blogs. Janet and I write blogs each week. We also have meetups in Portland. Janet's in Portland, and I'm in Seattle, Tacoma, Bellevue, University Place. I'm also in Kent this weekend at the Emerald Spiral Expo. You can find out more at our website about that. You can also find us on Facebook, on Twitter. You can subscribe to us on YouTube, and I'm also on YouTube, and all those links are on our website. I want to remind folks that tomorrow we have a Zoom conference call. So this is different. We've been using just a phone conference up until now. We have a Zoom conference. So you'll have to click to get that information. You have to go to our website, consciousconversationswithjoanandjanet.com, to go to our website and get the login information for that. You'll be able to phone if you want, but there's also a video aspect of it now. And just let me see. The only last thing about it is that I do have a 12 weeks transformation private coaching practice. You can find out more at my website, joan-newcomb.com.
Thank you so much, Dr. Motsisi.
Wonderful having you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You've been listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. I'm your host, Joan Newcomb, and Janet Barrett.
And thank you, everyone. What a wonderful, wonderful experience for all of us. We'll be enjoying this for years to come.
Yes, I want to also thank all our listeners for helping to create this experience in this moment, because there is no time or space as consciousness. So no matter when you are listening to this, you have helped create this experience in the moment. Thank you all for joining us as consciousness expressing and evolving.
You've been listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. And thanks so much for helping to co-create the show, no matter if you're listening live or on demand. You energetically contribute to our collective experience. Joan and Janet love to hear from you and invite you to email your comments and ideas for them to explore each week. Contact them at consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. Tune in next week for another great show, and until then, keep enjoying this wonderful adventure we call life.